Welcome to another edition of the 6th Plymouth District State House Report with State Representative Josh Cutler. I only say that because it's actually 6th Plymouth District edition of CrossTalk, but we usually use stuff from his State House report to kind of talk about some of the things that he's doing. Welcome,
Kevin.
Back to the program.
Thanks for having me. Good
of course,
to be back.
Folks know that the last time we were together, we were up at the State House. It was a good
Great
program.
episode. Well done. Good production value, too, for the folks behind the camera.
We kind of did some different things. We had, and you appreciated that. I
did, yeah. It changed between. I hope the folks, if they didn't get a chance to see it, it's definitely worth checking out. I'm sure it's on your reruns, or is it in syndication now, or how does that work?
It's in syndication. Actually, just so you know, not only
serial rights to that.
not only do we rebroadcast it here on Whitman Hands Community Access, our PEG Access channels, but we also have it on YouTube.
Yep.
And I have shared it with other communities across the Commonwealth.
Wow.
And there have been access centers that have.
Is there like an awards thing you can submit that to? Because that was a pretty well done piece, I thought.
I actually plan on doing that.
Yes, I think you should. Do I get any credit if you win an award?
Oh, tons. Yeah, we'll.
Because I was sort of the co-host. I wasn't just the guest. I was the co-host for part of it.
Well, technically, you co-produced it. You actually co-produced it.
Okay. I get a credit somewhere?
I don't know if they give us 3 trophies, but yeah, you get credit. But the idea of the program is to talk a little bit about what the state representative is up to. Of course, he serves not only the town of Hanson, but Duxbury and Pembroke as well. You're returning back from a little bit of downtime during the summer, not much because it took a bit for the budget to get done, signed into law, the fiscal 2020 budget. How was your time off before getting back to work?
Yeah, it was great. We were busy in July. August was a little slower, obviously. Took some time off. Able to do a family trip to Alaska. Maybe we've talked about that with the kids. I had a blast. So sort of something was on my bucket list for a long time. So it's a lot of fun. It's awesome.
What were some of the things that you got to experience in Alaska?
So we got to see like a grizzly bear in the wild grabbing a salmon. That was really cool. Saw bald eagles flying around. We went and did some fishing. In fact, we caught some kind of fish that wasn't worth keeping, and so we threw it back. And a bald eagle swooped in and grabbed it from it. So that was pretty cool. So it was very, very neat. If you ever have a chance to go, definitely recommend it, and go soon because unfortunately, climate change is taking a toll. So.
It definitely is. Well, since the House has returned to session.
Yes, we're back.
And I think one of the things we probably want to touch upon is there's been some work done on a higher education bill.
Yeah, so lots going on. We're back in session in the House and the Senate. In fact, just this week, the House passed some new legislation regarding higher education. Folks may be aware, you've seen we've had some issues with schools that have, colleges and universities that have shuttered their doors, leaving students kind of out in the cold in some cases. And so we wanted to do more to hopefully prevent that from happening, but also provide some transparency and so that parents and students kind of have a better understanding of the college's finances, and also requiring that the colleges have contingency plans in place if, heaven forbid, something does happen and the students aren't just left with nowhere to go and nowhere to take their credits. So the bill that we just passed in the House yesterday, which was passed unanimously, and we'll move on to the Senate, would require some tighter, more accurate financial reports about the colleges to be released to the public. So if you're a parent or a student, you can do some shopping and be an educated consumer about the financial health of the institution that you're going to send your child to or going to attend. So that's one part of it, but also forcing the institutions to come up and think about these things so that they're not caught flat-footed if, heaven forbid, there is a problem. So that they have to come up with a contingency plan for where their students go. Do they have a relationship with another university? So that no one's kind of left out in the cold, which is what happened, unfortunately, in a couple instances. So some important steps forward. The bill goes to the Senate now, and it's not a controversial thing. I don't think there'll be too many hiccups, and so hopefully that will get passed and will hopefully prevent any future Mount Ida type situations from happening.
I refrained from saying that because that's the most recent.
That's the most, but there's some other, that was the one that everyone's heard of, but there's some other colleges that have had, we're in a period where colleges are under financial pressure just because of the number of students, the economic factors, and so, we're seeing some consolidation in the industry, which is just a part of the process.
True.
But we want to make sure the students are protected. And these are some steps forward to help to do that.
Is there any kind of government oversight, especially state government, in regards to this?
We're talking about, this bill applies to private and public universities. So obviously with the public universities, we know the finances inside and out, UMass system and all the other public state colleges. So, obviously, we're very much concerned with their, solvency and making sure they're better funded and so forth. But this bill was really more broadly focused because it's really been in the private colleges that have had the problems, Mount Ida being an example again. So the bill applied to both public and private. But obviously, when it comes to the public institutions, we have, even greater responsibility there.
Okay. Moving on from education to talking about a committee that you're part of. I think you also head up a subcommittee. We're talking about the Workability Committee. Talk to me about what is the Workability Committee and what is some of the work that you've been doing?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I'm glad to have a chance to talk about this. So this is something kind of new that viewers may not be familiar with that we're leading and that I helped create this term. And basically, it has to do with disability hiring practices. So trying to create more opportunities for folks who have disabilities, and whether it be intellectual or developmental or cognitive disabilities, to succeed in the workplace. We know that every study shows that that is a benefit to folks to have whether the dignity of work, the paychecks, all the things that contribute to that. And so Massachusetts, we don't have the natural resources, like oil reserves or vast amounts of sunshine all the time. Our biggest asset is our skilled workforce, our educated and skilled workforce. That's what makes our economy move. And especially in this kind of environment, we can't afford to leave anybody on the sidelines. And unfortunately, we do leave people on the sidelines, people who have disabilities that might otherwise be very, might be terrific employees. Right. And the unemployment rates for folks with disabilities is substantially higher than the overall workforce. So trying to do a better job of making sure we're breaking down the barriers and the hurdles to encourage and incentivize folks to be able to succeed in the workforce. And so that's sort of the focus of the subcommittee that I'm leading. It's called the Workability Subcommittee, just for having a shorter name than Workforce Development for Persons with Disability. And so we've been meeting since this spring. We have about 7 or 8 members from the House and Senate, Democrat and Republican. And we've been meeting with disability advocates, stakeholders, employers, and employees, both large, like I've met with Spalding and Partners Healthcare, are the biggest employer in the state, but also very small. Met with Leo Vercoloni at Verc, runs local gas stations here in the South Shore, and he does a great job of integrating his workforce and hiring folks with disabilities. Right. So the gamut. And we've really been spending a lot of time. It's been a big focus of my term this year, and I'm hopeful that we're going to come up with some really strong recommendations that will help to increase opportunities for folks with disabilities to succeed in the workplace. I think it's really important, both for a lot of reasons, for economic reasons, for the well-being of everybody, and for us as a Commonwealth as well. So I'm really excited about it. Trying to reach out to business folks who are doing things well or have kind of good stories that we can share, we can learn from. I find that the business community in a lot of ways is doing a really good job of trying to bring in folks with disabilities. I think the state can learn from them. And I think as a state we need to try to make sure that our workforce better reflects the diversity of the Commonwealth. And so we talk about diversity in terms of people of color and gender, but we also want to make sure that includes people with disabilities as well. And so that's sort of the focus of what I'm doing, and really excited by it, and happy to have a chance to kind of share what we're up to. And we're sort of midstream right now. We're going to be coming out with some recommendations, a report, I think, early next year, and then hopefully trying to spend the rest of the time actually acting on them and making some concrete steps forward. So we're actually having, Kevin, at the end of October, end of this month, October 22nd, we're having a public hearing up at the State House. We're inviting folks who have disabilities who might have some experiences in the workforce or attempting to be in the workforce that they're willing to share with us so we can learn from that. So we're having a public hearing and opening it up, and folks who are interested in that or want to testify or perhaps come in and observe, we welcome that, and you can reach out to my office and we can set that up. So we'll have a lot more information on that. There's also a lot of info on my website about it as well.
Excellent. Well, you and I have had a couple of conversations in regards to a bill that I know that you're a big proponent of, and that is distracted driving. And it appears as though at this
What was
particular
that?
time that it's made it to a certain point, but it seems as though it's hung up.
Yes. So
what is the holdup for it to be signed into
sure.
law?
And it is a very serious issue. So just to bring folks up to speed, we have already in Massachusetts a law against texting and driving that's already on the books. And obviously that can be challenging to enforce because if, here's my phone, if I'm using it and I get pulled over and the police officer tries to write me a ticket for texting, I'll say, well, no, I wasn't texting, I was punching in the digits on my phone, or I was checking Google Maps, or whatever. It's very hard to enforce because there's no way to discern whether you're texting or doing something else. So what we've long sort of looked at is having a hands-free law, which a lot of other states do. So in other words, when you're driving a car, you're not supposed to use your phone with your hands for anything other than in an emergency. Most cars these days have Bluetooth capability. Yeah. The phones have all newfangled gadgets now these days as well. So there's a lot of options for folks instead of using your hands, which studies show is the most distracting. Even though there's other kinds of distractions, this is the most sort of dangerous one, all the studies show. So passing a distracted driving bill, a hands-free bill, has been a priority for a while. And what's sort of held it up, because folks have contacted me and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Why aren't you passing this? And I understand their frustration, and sort of I feel it too. There's some concerns. There's been longstanding concerns about data collection. It really comes down to data collection, and concerns about racial profiling, and sort of this concern. Folks, people of color feel that in law enforcement, the balance is off, and that they're concerned that this is going to be used in a way that's going to disproportionately impact them. Obviously, on the law enforcement side, they feel that, hey, they already have a lot of responsibilities, and adding these additional data collection requirements are really going to be a burden for them. So it's kind of become a little bit of an impasse, and we've passed a version of the bill in the House, and the Senate passed a version of the bill.
Conference committee came together.
And there's a conference committee that was working out, and so just to sort of summarize, and because I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but basically the House version of the bill didn't have as, I would use the word onerous, perhaps that might not be the choice of words for others, did not have as onerous data collection requirements as the Senate bill did. They had a more robust, shall we say, data collection requirements in the Senate bill. And each branch has sort of, stood firm a little bit because, we feel that there was enough data collection in the bill that we passed without kind of creating this huge burden for law enforcement. There's concerns. I'll give you an example. So one of the things that it talked about is the data on all the stops. So anytime someone's pulled over for distracted driving, they want that to be recorded, and they want the ethnicity of the driver to be recorded. Obviously that can be a challenging thing to do in the field because you have to kind of use an educated guess, okay? And that's not an exact science. And also if you have geographic issues, so it's such as, let's say you're the law enforcement in a small town that's next to a big city and people drive through your town somewhere else. So there might be a disproportionate number of folks of color who drive through your town who might get pulled over, and it might look like your town is racially profiling. And you get tagged with that, and then there's repercussions to that. And is that really the case or not? Is it because there's some racial profiling going on, or is it because there's a geographic town next to it where people are traveling through? So those are the kinds of sticky issues that we're sort of confronting, and that's why I say it's not as simple. People say it's just data collection. Why can't you just work it out? And it gets into some broader societal issues and some really topical things that are going on in society. That aren't easy to work out, and we have a lot of different voices in the conversation. So the good news is that I think we're really, really close. I think there was at one point an actual bill that was in the clerk's office that was ready to be signed off on, and the House was ready to sign off, and I guess at the last minute there was some lack of agreement. The Speaker has come out with an idea, which I thought was a good one, to say, okay, hey, let's separate these two issues. Everyone agrees about the need for the hands-free legislation. Let's pass that and get that on the books, get that going. and let's work on this data collection issue on the
Would that
side.
be an amendment to it, or would that be an additional piece of legislation?
So what he's proposed, what some folks have said is, let's take the current bill and sort of split it in half. And let's pass the stuff that everybody agrees on, and let's hold off on the stuff that we don't and give it more time to percolate and to kind of negotiate. I think there's a reluctance on the part of some to do that, to give up what everyone wants to pass, because I think they fear that we won't address the part that they want. But that's an option. Public pressure, I think in this case is a good thing, because we have a responsibility to do this. We need to get it done, and so hopefully it'll be pretty soon. But that's gives you kind of an idea, hopefully, to viewers of like some of the public policy issues that go into what seems like a fairly simple thing. Let's just pass this hands-free bill.
It's not.
But it gets into some bigger issues. So it's not always simple. I wish, I have a point of view, and I would like to see the bill passed. But I understand and I respect that people have some concerns.
If we go into the second half of your legislative term here, can this carry over
So
to
we have
next year?
So we have a 2-year term. It started in January, and so we have until next December, not this
31st,
December, to get everything done. Obviously, we don't want anything to go on to that point, but in a worst case scenario, that is a possibility.
For the folks at home who didn't know, I just want to make sure that
Yes.
it's a 2-year term. Is there a matter if you got to get it done before
We're
the
going to
end?
lose viewers. We're one of the weeds here on legislative.
Wait, it's going to get even better, because I would like to kind of move the conversation forward to another very, very hot topic.
Okay.
I'm curious as to what you have heard from either business owners or maybe even residents in your district about the vaping, the temporary ban on the sale of vape products, e-juice, e-cigarettes.
Yes.
Have you heard anything?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure folks are probably pretty familiar with what's happened so far. The governor came out with a ban on vaping products through January of 2020. Obviously, there's some significant public health, public safety concerns. I think there's now 9 or 10 cases in Massachusetts of people coming down with serious illnesses, lung-related illnesses, we believe because of vaping. And nationally, there's been fatalities.
Right.
That was he took a very strong step. I mean, I think some people are upset about that. I've heard from folks in my district who do vape that they were very upset about the way it was done, and I can sympathize with that. I think potentially there could have been some exceptions made and so forth, but I do think we do have a responsibility to take some steps. It is something of an unknown. It's not. Cigarettes have been around a long, long time. We know that they're not good for you, and that's an adult choice to make. The vaping is something new, and we certainly don't know all the ins and outs of it. What I think, Kevin, is going to happen is that from a legislative point of view, so that was the governor making his decision, which he has the right to do.
Yep.
And I think from our point of view, there's some things we're looking at in terms of vaping that I think, and I'm just making my own opinions here. I don't want to get. Could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but I think we're going to take a hard look at banning the flavored vapes, which is what we hear about the most. That is a concern to children, and the kids getting hooked on. You hear, I have a middle school aged son, and I hear. Not from him, but I hear horror stories about kids in high school and middle school that are vaping at school, outside of school. It's very hard to detect. And we know that the flavored stuff is what really can kind of hook the kids. And so as we did with cigarettes, limiting the flavoring of the vapes, I think, is an important step. So I think there's a lot of consensus to do that, not to ban vapes, just to ban the flavored vapes. And I think the vaping industry, for the most part, substantially agrees with that position, at least the ones that I've talked to. So I think that that's likely to happen. I think also we're likely, I'm not always in favor of raising taxes, but this is one area where I think the taxes that apply to cigarettes should apply to vape products as well. There should be some equality there, and currently that's not. So I think the regulating the taxation and also the flavored products is I see something on the horizon, I would say. There's legislation about that. I think it has a lot of support, a lot of momentum. and I wouldn't be surprised if we took that up, perhaps later this fall. So there could be some other wrinkles in there, but that's just my educated guess from reading the tea leaves.
Okay. It's interesting that we at least had a chance to touch upon it. We actually had a proponent in studio. A proponent of vaping.
Okay.
But an opponent to the temporary ban, and their thought is that if you tax it and don't eliminate the flavors, it's going to be, if it's more expensive, the kids aren't going to be buying it. But right now, there's no taxation on it like there is on tobacco.
Yeah, I mean, there's logic to that. Sure.
Okay.
I mean, listen, there's definitely some folks who vaping is viewed as a sort of a step down from cigarettes by some. And for folks who are looking, who are cigarette smokers, and this is one sort of step down from that. There's obviously some other health concerns with it. Maybe we don't know everything. I think there's some value in that. I do worry though that we did such a good job, sort of as a society, of making smoking, taking it out of our schools. And when we were young, you think about smoking was everywhere. You go on a plane, people would smoke, and now the idea of that is just, if you never even think that's a crazy idea, but that's what it was. And so society has changed a lot for the better, I would say. And so we don't want to go back and have vaping become something that is prevalent everywhere in our and it's a different technology, and as we learn from anything time technology changes, the laws need to kind of try to keep pace, and this is one area where they haven't really. But so I'm mostly concerned as a parent, and I'm sure parents are, about getting in the hands of kids. If adults want to do it, that's adults' right to do that. But I think for the kids, we want to do everything we can to protect them from that.
We teased at the beginning of the show about traveling up to the State House and having a fun shoot up there. But what also took place prior to taking a bit of a recess was an event that recognized unsung heroines in and around the Commonwealth.
You know one around here?
I believe, if I'm correct, that Whitman-Hanson Community Access, we have a new magazine program, Whitman-Hanson Community News, and one of our featured packages was on one Arlene Diaz, which I believe that you nominated.
I did. Yeah, we this is an annual event that we do at the State House called Unsung Heroine, to recognize women who, as they say, make a difference but don't always make the news. And so I was proud to nominate this year Arlene Diaz, who does so much with Whitman-Hanson Community Access, but also the Board of Health, breast cancer awareness, does so many things in the community. I've known her for a long time. She's really a great person. I don't know if she's still out in the other room watching us, but hopefully she is, or hopefully she'll see this. And so we're so proud to recognize her. And she came up to the State House, some of her friends and family, and we had a great ceremony. The governor, I think the lieutenant governor was there, and that was really neat to recognize Arlene. And also women from other parts of the state, too, were doing great things. So it's important. These are ceremonial events, but they're important, I think, to recognize and to acknowledge the good work that gets done. So, great job, Arlene.
And basically, you just kind of gave us the long-form answer to what you shared with our news magazine program. So, fantastic. Bravo.
There you go, Kevin. I'm here to help.
I know you are. You're also here to help people locally. Talk to me about an initiative to try to have folks buy locally. How important is that?
Oh, right. So we have some legislation called the Mass Made Bill. I think I might have talked about in the past, that I filed along with some of my South Shore colleagues. And basically what it is, it's a branding program to brand products or services that were created, established, produced here in Massachusetts with Mass Made logo. Some other states have done this successfully, and it's a way to, if you're a consumer and you're looking to buy a particular type of widget, and two widgets are the same, and one of them was made in Massachusetts and one was made, say, in Canada, hey, you're more likely to buy the one in Massachusetts, or most folks would. And so the whole idea is to help promote Massachusetts-made businesses and products, and this would be a voluntary program that businesses could apply for, and if they fill out the right paperwork, they would get the Mass-Made designation, and they could then advertise that. And it would also be something that businesses could go on the state website and be listed, so that if you are a manufacturer and you're looking for a certain kind of widget, you can go find one made in Massachusetts versus one that's made out of state. And so this is what we're trying to accomplish with the bill. It's called the mass-made legislation. There's been some similar things done in other states, and we're working on that now to hopefully to make some progress, and we'd love to see that happen. And hopefully the Governor Baker is out there listening, and we'll have his folks adopt this. I think it's a good idea.
We've just got a couple of minutes left here. I want to take a moment to also recognize an event that took place up at the State House. Have an Energy Efficiency Day?
Yeah, we had this month is Energy Efficiency Month, and we have. I've been taking an interest in this issue. We have a great local advocate, Marianne Damasio, who I think she does a show with you as well, right?
Green Scene. Actually, Green Scene was Marianne Damasio.
Oh, good.
That's correct.
So she's a great advocate for energy efficiency, and so we have legislation that we've been working on with Marianne to update the state's appliance standards to have more energy efficient appliances in the marketplace, which is great for the environment, but it's also good for your pocketbook, because when things are more efficient, they cost less money for your energy. So we're proud that Massachusetts has consistently ranked #1 in the country in terms of energy efficiency, and again this year. And we just had an event this week where we officially proclaimed it Energy Efficiency Day, and the House passed a resolution that I was happy to sponsor to name it such. And so that's sort of the ceremonial side, but on the policy side, we're trying to continue to push for a bill that I have called the Mass Energy Save Bill to update these appliance standards, as I just mentioned. So some good stuff happening, but we should be proud that we live in Massachusetts. We're doing good things, but we also have some other things that we can do to do even better.
We got less than 3 minutes left in the program. Anything we haven't touched upon, anything you want to say in closing to your constituents who are watching?
So I think the only thing I can think of that I wanted to mention was just giving a shout out to the commuter rail. We've talked in the past about commuter rail issues having a stop here in Hanson, and as you know, we in the past we'd fought to get our weekend service back. We're trying now to get the schedule fixed so that we have a later weeknight train. So if you want to go into the city for an event, you don't have to leave in the 7th inning or at halftime or into intermission. So making progress on commuter rail issues, and recently the report out that the MBTA is actually seeing an increase in revenues because of this weekend service discount that they've been offering. So I thought that was important to note. The folks out there who are taking the trains more often, that's having an impact. It's helping the bottom line, and it's showing the T that when you do business smart, consumer smart programs and offer discounts, that people respond. And if you offer a better product, people will use it. So hopefully they're listening, and they're going to continue to offer better products, and hopefully we'll continue to see the revenues uptick. But I wanted to just mention that and continue to plug the commuter rail and also the weekend service.
Folks want to get in touch with you, they want to reach out to your office, or they just want to see what you're up to. How can they do that?
Yeah, so welcome. Connect. Website is www.joshcutler.com. Obviously, you can connect with me on Facebook, the State House. Our main number is 617-722-2810. And
ask for Cole.
Ask for Cole or Gigi, yep.
Cole Angley, yeah, or Gigi.
And also welcome to come to my office hours that we have every Friday morning at the various senior centers in my district. We rotate around. So happy to hear from folks, and my best ideas come from people in the district, so please keep them coming.
Thank you so much for coming in once again. Thank you for tuning into this program, 6th Plymouth District edition of CrossTalk with your state representative, Josh Cutler. And until the next time, have yourself a great day.